Uh, Hello everyone, and this is the data science project that I've made very recently, and this is nothing but a bank dataset that I had, and the bank dataset had some of the features such as the region of the bank. The three regions that the dataset combines is of Spain, France, and Germany. We can see the salary distribution of people, salary distribution of the total customers in the bank, and we can see that the number of people or the frequency of people with respect to each of the salary is quite similar. And what I'm trying to say is, for example, 262 number of people have 60k salary, and then we can say that 245 number of people have 65k salary, then 254 number of people have 70k salary, and this way we can see that the number of people is quite same as far with respect to each of the salary. And if we come to the gender proportion, that we can say that 54.570 percentages, so 54.570 percentage of people of customers are male, and male in this bank, and thus the male dominates over female, as if we consider all these regions as a whole. And we can also see the tenure of the customers actually means the time for which the customer has been with the bank, and this actually means this belongs to 3 to 3 years, this belongs to 3 to 6, then 6 to 9, and this belongs to 9 to 10 years. Okay, so we can see that as a whole we are looking right now, we are not looking region wise right now, we are looking as a whole. So here we can see the 24.96 percentages of total customers have the tenures 0 to 3 years, and the major and the around 30% of the customers have tenures from 3 to 6 years, and around 30% of the customers have tenures of 6 to 9 years. That means quite similar. That means the middle-aged people are actually retained, and middle-aged tenure people are actually retained by the bank as a whole. And the oldest of the people that lie between 9 to 10 years of 9 to 10 years of tenure is a bit less as compared to all these three ones. So now the next thing that we come up to is the credit card. So this actually means one actually denotes the number of people who have left the bank, and 0 means the number of people who are there with the bank as a customer. So this means that number of people, the percentage of people who have credit cards. So we can see that 1, and how is this possible? Even 1 means the number of people who have left the bank, and we can see that 71% of the people who have left the bank still have credit cards of this bank. So this is a bit strange, and this is a bit anomalous, because if a customer has actually left the bank, then how can he have the credit cards with that particular bank? So that brings us to a very nice conclusion, and a very important conclusion, that the customer has not actually left the bank on the whole, but the customer has actually left one of the services or two services of the bank that he might not have liked. And that is one of the major insights from this data set we can have. The next thing that we have is customer exited. That means the number of customers that have exited from this bank, and 1 means the number of customers exited, and 0 means the number of customers who are with this bank. So we can see as a whole around 20% of the customers that have exited, and 79.63% of the customers are there with the bank. So this is a skewed data set, a highly skewed data set, and while classifying, you just cannot take accuracy as a metric. So that is an additional information that we will use in the data modeling part. So that will be discussed later, but I've just shown an insight about that. So active customers, we actually means the number of customers who have been very active. Active means he has been doing a lot of activity, he has been doing a lot of transactions, and he has been doing a lot of transaction means he has a lot of money getting out and credited in his account, or a lot of money that is coming in his account, and a lot of money that is going out from his account. So that is what defines the activeness of the customer. This is the age distribution that we have. and this is the balance distribution. That means a balance that we have, the balance that the customers have in their bank and their distribution. And this is the credit score. Credit score is just a score which is given to each of the customer with respect to the credibility of that customer and the loyalty of that customer with the bank. So these are all the features that I've discussed, and the purpose of this model is to classify whether a person will leave the bank, whether a customer will leave the bank, or he will continue to remain in this bank. So now moving on further, we can see we will dive into different regions and look how the bank needs to make policies with respect to each of the regions, and we also need to focus on more details with respect to each of the regions. And we'll start by doing it right now. So we'll click on the France side. So this is the France, and we can see that the number of people, or the frequency of people with respect to each of the estimated salary group is quite same. Yeah, the number of people is quite same from each of the salary group. So this is an important conclusion. Hence there is no bias in the number of customers from a particular salaried group. We have almost equal distribution of people from different groups of salary. Then there's a gender proportion, so there are around 55% of the male in this bank. So this is an important conclusion to note, and we can keep this thing in mind while making or while designing any of the policies for this bank. The next thing that we need to focus on is tenure of customers. So again, the same thing that we saw as a whole is quite prevalent in this region as well. In France, the bank has the major proportion of the customers. Around 30% of the customers have tenures 3 to 6 years, and around 30% of the customers have tenures from 6 to 9. That means around 60% of the customers have tenures between 3 to 9 years, and the bank is not able to hold as oldest of the customers from 9 to 10 years. But since we are just referring to 1 year in this 14.9%, this is just from 9 to 10 years, so this is definitely going to be a bit low. So if we just change the tenure of the customer, so where it is, yeah, this one it is. Yeah, this one we can be a bit more sure of it. So this belongs to 0 to 2 years, this belongs to 2 to 4, 4 to 6, 6 to 8, 8 to 10. Yeah, and this is how it goes. So we can see the middle age tenures are being, the customers of middle age tenures are actually the composition is quite equal, and this is a good thing to note. Again, I would do this. And now what we could do is, again, the credit card. 71% of the people who have actually exited the bank have the credit cards with respect to this bank, and this is something that is not possible unless that is the customer of the bank. But since the data says that the customer has actually left, so this might mean that the customer has not actually left the bank on the whole, rather he might have left 1 or 2 services of the bank, as I have said, and that might be one of the reasons, and the customer exited. So we can see that 84% of the customers actually remain in the bank in France, and only 16% of the customers have left the bank. And let's see the male proportion out of this. And if we just see we can see that out of 84%, 88% of them are male, and 88% of them are male who are there as a customer, and only 12% of the males have actually left. And if we look the female, that will be drastic, right? Similarly, we can look for the female side also. Now we can look for the active customers. Similar thing is being proved over here, that we have proved for the credit cards, that the customer has not actually left the bank as a whole, but he might have actually left 1 or 2 services of the bank. Now we'll move to the age distribution. So we can see major proportion of the customers actually lies within this region, within this age group of people, that is from 25 to 35 years. And this actually means that the bank has actually younger lot of people. Now if we look at the balance distribution, this is a bit strange and this is a bit dynamic. This is not something that you will see very often in banks, and there are around 48% of the people who have actually 0k in their account. So that is really shocking. And how come that is possible? I mean, there are around half of the population of the bank has around 0k, and thus this might be one of the bad reasons, or this might not prove one of the good reasons for the bank, because the bank will not be able to generate a lot of capital from this lot of people, because because most of the people have 0k balance, and if the people will not keep their money in the bank, then the bank will not be able to generate their capital a lot. So the bank needs to focus on, and the bank needs to get some old age customers as well. So the bank needs to improve. The bank needs to continue their services for the young age people, because since most of the people belong to the young age, but then the bank also needs to focus on higher group of people in the sense of salary, because 48% and 50% 50% of the 48% of the people have actually 0k, and this will actually not benefit the bank in France, right? So this is not a good sign that we were looking for, and we need to improve upon this. We don't want this, okay? Because then the bank will have problem in generating capitals, right? So now we'll look for the Germany thing. Now the Germany is over here. Again, the same thing is being observed in the salary thing, and there might be a bit of the variation, but yeah, almost same is being observed. Now we have the gender proportion. The gender proportion is actually less, because in France it was 54% of male, and over here it is 52% of male and 47% of females. Again, almost a similar thing prevails in this region as well, in Germany as well. So we shouldn't be focusing more on that. Rather, we need to focus on the customer exited. Again, the credit cards and the active customers actually shows us and proves us that the customers have not actually left the bank, but they might have left some of the services of the bank, and the customers exited. Actually, over here, the number of customers, the proportion of customers that have exited in Germany is 814. That is the 32% of the total population of the bank. So that is quite huge, and we can say that the bank is not able to retain its major chunk of the customers, and the bank is not doing good with retaining its customers. The bank needs to actually have some policies with retention of the customer. So the policies needs to actually focus on the retention of the customer. This might be one of the very important insight in Germany. And again, we can see that the number of people, most of the customers actually lie between 25 to 35, and over here the 40 to 45 years of people are actually, so from 25 to 45 and 25 to 40 and 45 years, people are dominating in this region. That means the people are more of the younger age and a bit of the middle age of 40 around. So, and we can also see that the balance distribution is quite good, and the bank is generating quite a lot of revenue, and the bank will generate quite a lot of capital in Germany, because there are just 0.4% of people who have 0k salary, who have around 20k salary. No one has 0k salary in this case, as opposite to in France. And we can see the major around 60 to 70% of people have their salaries ranging between 100 to 120 or 140k. So this is a nice thing, because this is good for the bank. The bank will be able to generate loans for the people, and the bank will be the functioning of the bank will be in the right manner, as opposed to the France. Because in France you can see that we had 48% of the total population of the bank are around 0k balance, and in this way the bank will not be able to generate capital for its well-being. So that is not a good thing, right? So again, for here, in Germany, what the bank needs to focus on, the bank needs to actually focus on the customer retention part. The bank needs to make policies for the young age people and the middle age people, since most of the people belong to that region. And the bank needs to make policies for the customer retention, because a lot of people are actually leaving the bank, and around 32.44% have actually left the bank. So that is not a good thing. That is not a good sign. And so So the bank in Germany needs to work upon this. The bank in France, as I've said, needs to work upon this, and this needs to be worked really hard, because we just cannot have such a high population of customers having 0k salary, because this is not going to benefit the bank in any manner, and it will definitely have an impact. So this might, and to justify this, we can say that the cost of living in France might be high. One of the reasons. The second reason might be the people who have actually their bank accounts with this bank they might just be starting with their professional life, and they might not be earning that high, or they might not be earning that much, or the expenses that they are doing is reckless, and they just don't have any accounts for their expenses. That might also be one of the reasons. And these or the as I've said, the living standards of France might be very high, right? So these might be the situations, or these might be the, so we would like to further analyze over it. And we can see over here that we in order to prove this balance distribution, we can say that the cost of living in Germany is not that high, or the customers that are living over here might be quite vigilant, and they might be quite saving nature. They might be having quite saving nature, and they might be saving a lot of money. So that might be one of the reasons that the cost of living, as I've said, might not be that high in Germany, because since it has some proportion of the middle-aged people, so they might have got settled, and they might have some balance. They might have had some of the balance in their account, so which is resulting in the balance distribution. So our insight is quite going in the right direction. And we can see because the estimated salary distribution in Germany and France is quite similar. There's not much of the difference. There is a bit of the variation, but there is not much of the difference. As we can see that in France we have almost equal proportion. In Germany also there's a bit of the proportion, but then also if we just take this roughly equal, so the estimated salary, the salary of the people are quite similar, but what might be different is the standard of living and the vigilance of the customer. I mean, whether the customer is spending recklessly or the customer is saving. It depends upon the nature of the customer as well. So that is again a nice important point, and definitely the cost of living actually comes into the picture. Now the last thing that we need to focus on is Spain. So Spain again comes with the similar distribution. The gender proportion is around 56, and it has actually got the highest proportion, as we can see, from all the three regions. 56% of the people, 56% of the customers are male over here. Tenure of the customer still prevails the same. Nothing to discuss about it. We have discussed about the credit cards and the active customers, and now what we need to focus on is the number of exited customers. So customers exited over here is quite less, and it is quite same to the France. As we can see, in France there were around 16% of people that have left the bank. In Spain there's around the same level, 16.67% that have left the bank, and around 84% have been retained in the bank. So the bank is doing quite good with the customer retention part. So that is not the problem with the bank. The age distribution is again a nice thing. We can see that 30 to 35 years, and 25% of the people are actually of around 35 years. That is again a quite good insight. And most of the people are again from the middle age, belonging to the middle age or the young age. Not the middle age, I would like to say, but the young age, because 35 is not that very considered to be middle age. Now this is an important point. Again, the similar problem is being faced by the bank in Spain as the problem that was faced by in France. So the similar problem is there. Here again we have around 48.49% of the people have 0k balance, and that is again not good for this bank in Spain, because the bank will not be able to generate capital, and then the functioning of the bank might affect. So this is an important point, and we can see that there is some of the proportion of the people that have high balances in their account, but that is quite less. But as compared to France, it is almost quite equal, right? It is almost quite equal. It is not that different. as compared to the France. So the actually, if we compare it as a whole, the working conditions of this bank in Spain is actually resembling the working conditions of this bank in France. And in Germany it is a bit different. So the same policies needs to be implemented over here as well. The credit score does not add much value to it, and thus we are not focusing much on that. And yeah, the similar things. And again, the reason, and in order to justify the balanced distribution of the customers in this region in Spain, it remains the same as of the France. The living standards might be high, and since the estimated salary is almost the same as the number of people in France and as the number of people in Germany, so that is, the salary is not an issue. The people are earning around the same salary, but it depends upon the expenditures that they have. It depends upon how much the person is spending, and the cost of living is one of the more major points. The cost of the living, or the bank, the situation of the bank, or the location of the bank, the place where the bank is situated might be a very expensive place, or might be in the middle of the city. So that might be the reason it is quite expensive over there. So because the person might have taken a room or apartment very close to the bank, so that might be one of the reasons that he is spending so much of money. So that is further different things that we need to look upon. So these were the basic things that we have actually looked on, and on how and what are the factors that the bank needs to focus on more. So this is all from my side, and thank you from my side. Yeah, thank you.